If IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 feels confusing or stressful, this video is for you. I'll walk you through a complete Task 1 answer based on a task very similar to those used in current exams. And you'll see exactly how to structure your response and how to write at a band 7, 8 or 9 level without overcomplicating things. The task may seem a bit challenging, but I'm sure you can handle it. The chart shows the average number of children born to one woman in 2 countries between 1920 and 2019. The table presents the average age of women when they had their first child in the same period. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. And we have a line chart on the left and a table on the right. Let's have a look at the line chart first. Average number of children born to one woman, and we have a time period from 1920s all the way to 2019. So we have a 100-year period. And we have the data for 2 countries, the UK in red and Kazakhstan in green. The task tells us that we must identify and report the main features. And you also need to report trends. So how do you do that? So if we're looking at our line graph, I would say that the numbers at the beginning and at the end of the period are important. So we are going to report those. Also, look for any peaks, the highest numbers, or troughs, the lowest numbers. We have a clear peak in 1960. So that's when women in both countries had the highest number of children on average. And we have a clear trend. From 1920s to 1960s, numbers keep on going up. Women have more and more children, but then they start to go down. So women have fewer children on average. So we need to report the key features and the main trend in our report. Now, let's have a look at our table. Average age at which women had their first child and the same time period, 1920 to 2019, and the same 2 countries, the UK and Kazakhstan. And here we have a lot of numbers. It's not as easy to turn your head around those, but let's look at the numbers for the UK. We see that at the beginning of the period, in the UK, a woman on average had her first child when she was 26.5 years old. And then numbers keep on gradually going up and we finish at 28.9. So women have their first child later. And we see exactly the same trend in Kazakhstan. In 1920, women on average had their first child when they were 23.5 years old. And then numbers keep on going up to 27.6. So in both countries, women in 2019 had their first child later than in 1920. These are our trends. The task also tells us to make comparisons where relevant. So you should compare the numbers in different time periods, for example, at the beginning of the period and at the end. And also we need to compare the 2 countries. And actually here we see something interesting. So when we look at our line graph, we can see that all the numbers for the UK are below those for Kazakhstan. So women in the UK had fewer children than women in Kazakhstan. But when we look at our table, all the numbers for the UK are higher. So women in the UK had their first child later than in Kazakhstan. We definitely need to report that in our answer. And that's how you analyze your task. Now, whichever type of task you get, I recommend using the same structure every time. An introduction, an overview, then 2, sometimes 3 body paragraphs. And that's it. Don't write just 1 body paragraph. You need to split data into at least 2 paragraphs. You may have 3 sometimes. As for the overview, it is possible to write it at the end of your answer, but I recommend writing it straight after the introduction while you still have time. And you don't need to write a conclusion, so again, save your time. Now, let's have a look at our answer, starting with our introduction. The goal of our introduction is to introduce the data we have. And the simplest way to write it is to simply take the task and paraphrase it. Let me show you. So the first sentence in our task begins, the chart shows, and we write, the line graph illustrates. The average number of children born to one woman becomes how many children women had on average. In 2 countries is in the UK and Kazakhstan, and between 1920 and 2019 is from 1920 to 2019. Very subtle and light paraphrasing. Now we do the same with the second sentence. The table presents is the table provides. The average age of women, the typical age of women, when they had their first child, when they had their first baby, in the same period, during the same years. The most important thing is not to copy the whole sentence or long phrases. Just light paraphrasing is already enough. But if you're more advanced, you could do something interesting here. Instead of writing 2 simple sentences like we just did, which is good, you could write a complex sentence with while. So the first sentence about the line graph remains exactly the same. So the line graph illustrates how many children and so on. Then we put a comma, right? While the table provides, and now something interesting, the table provides a woman's average age of first-time motherhood for the same countries and time period. So the linker while allows us to write a complex sentence. It's not overly long, so that's great. And I've added some more complex vocabulary. First-time motherhood. That's quite a specific term. If you don't know it, don't worry about it. Just write in simple terms. You can still pause. But if you can, that's a great way to raise your score for sure, as long as you use those complex terms correctly. The second part of this paragraph is an overview. That's where you need to write 1 or 2 sentences where you say what you've learned from this task. Don't give any details, just the big picture. Let me show you. Again, we're starting with a simpler version. So I'm gonna say what's happened over the period between 1920 and 2019 without really concentrating too much on little numbers. So over the period, women in both countries delayed having children and had fewer births overall. However, females in Kazakhstan became mothers earlier and had more children than their UK counterparts. So basically, we've reported all the main trends. Women started having fewer children and women started having them later. While in Kazakhstan, they still had children earlier and had more children than in the UK. These are the main trends, not a single number. By the way, there is a great word here, counterparts. It means people in the same position, and this allows me not to repeat the word women again. UK counterparts. This means women in the UK. And if you are really advanced, you could write at a band 9 level. Let me show you. The meaning is exactly the same, just the vocabulary and the grammar are at a higher level. Over time, a general trend of deferring childbearing to a later age and having fewer children overall can be observed in both countries. Although Kazakhstan still recorded earlier motherhood and higher birth levels than the UK. So what have we done here? Well, first of all, I added some super precise, super topic-specific vocabulary. Deferring childbearing, this means having children later. Earlier motherhood, having children earlier. And birth levels. If you don't know those terms, don't worry about it, but they do exist in English. Also, we use the passive voice with a modal verb, can be observed. That's great for your score. And in this overview, we used a complex sentence with although instead of two separate sentences with however. Although that doesn't really affect the level of difficulty, these are just two different options. An overview like this can score really well, but only if the body paragraphs are done properly. And this is exactly where I see many students struggle. So let me walk you through how I approach the body paragraphs step by step, so you can turn a solid overview into a high-scoring answer. To get Band 7+, you must logically organize information. This is an official requirement. And we need 2 or 3 body paragraphs. How would you organize your answer? I see at least 2 ways. We could write about the chart in the first body paragraph and about the table in the second. Or about the UK and then about Kazakhstan. I'm gonna write about the chart and then the table. By the way, you'll be able to download the full answer as PDF via a link in the description below. And now let's look at the first body paragraph. What's the best way to start? Well, start at the beginning of the period. In 1920, the average British woman gave birth to approximately 2 children, while the Kazakhstani average was around 3.5. So we are describing the beginning of the period and provide the numbers for both countries. And because we don't see the precise numbers on our chart, we use words like approximately or around. Now let's describe the first part of our trend, numbers going up. In both countries, the birth rate continued to increase until the 1960s, at which point it peaked at around 2.7 and 4.5 children per woman, respectively. So we're not reporting every number, just the key features we've selected before. And the word respectively is great. It means that the numbers are mentioned in the same order as before. So in the first sentence, we talked about the UK first and then Kazakhstan. So our numbers are in the same order. Now let's report the second part of the trend, numbers going down. Between 1960 and 2019, the numbers generally declined, with the end of the period displaying a rate of around 1.8 children per woman in the UK and 3 in Kazakhstan. When you're writing your report, don't forget to compare the numbers, compare the different countries and show how they're similar or how they're different. I know analyzing the data and presenting it this way is not easy, and I have detailed lessons showing how to select the key features on the first place, how to find trends, and how to meet all the requirements for each type of task. And you can find all this in my courses. They can help you prepare for your exam more quickly and achieve a higher score. And I'll link them below if you'd like to check them out. And now let's move on to our second body paragraph about the table. So here I started the paragraph with the linker. In terms of women's age at first childbirth. This linker, which is quite complex, tells us what this paragraph is about, and that's great for your coherence. It helps you link your ideas together, and examiners watch out for that. If it's a little bit too complex, you could just say, looking at the age of women at their first child, the meaning is the same. Now we're gonna compare the two countries. Females in Kazakhstan were around 1 to 4 years younger than those in Britain across all time periods. Let's present our main trend. Let's compare the beginning of the period to the end of the period. The average age of giving birth to the first child increased slightly in both countries. So please note that first of all, I just described the trend in simple words, and then I use numbers to support this description. So here they are. From 26.5 in the UK and 23.5 in Kazakhstan in 1920 to 28.9 and 27.6 in 2019, respectively. So that's our main trend and our key features. This report is just over 200 words long, which is an ideal length, and you can download it as PDF using the link below. The key to success in Task 1 is meeting all the requirements. For example, for a Band 7 score, you need to meet all the Band 7 requirements, not just some of them. And right now, I'd like to share with you a super in-depth lesson on how to write strong introductions, taken directly from one of my paid courses and available to you here for free. I'm sure you'll find it useful, and if you'd like to check out my courses, they're linked below. And thank you for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!